Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz. He's been going through some beautiful material on the order of blessings. Very, very interesting material. So let's jump in and see how Rabbi's doing today. Oh, I got Ronald up on the screen. Shalom, Rabbi. Where are you?
I'm here. I'm
Oh,
available. There you go.
there you are. We got you. Okay, Rabbi, I'm going to turn the class over to you, please.
Thank you, Dan. Everybody, hello, everybody. I'm going to share the screen and take it over to. Um, we are here, I believe.
Ronald up on the
Yeah.
screen. Shalom.
Okay. So there's my marker. Take it off there, and we are in the fourth chapter of the opening of the book. And Shulchan Aruch says, now we're going to get into, it's going to get maybe a little complicated. Just bear with it. We're going to see that there was a great concern about spiritual purity, spiritual cleansing, physical cleansing, and with regard to all kinds of issues. And I'm just stick handling through. I have what he says, and my attempts to explain it, and so we'll see how that goes. So we're up to this is paragraph 3. One should not put his hands in his mouth. He's talking about waking up when you first wake up. Shouldn't put your hands in the mouth, ears, eyes, or nose before washing one's hands. So any opening in your body. My comment of blessing is some take this as insight into the workings of the spiritual world. The foul spirit lingering on the fingertips after sleeping, we spoke about that last time, could harm the body and or soul by getting access to the inner self through one of the portals of the body. The blessing here is the revelation of how the spiritual world works in that case. Others, according to those, that would be the blessing. Others take this as an allusion to a physical reason for washing one's hands upon awakening, given by the Rosh, who was one of the last giants of a certain epoch, as mentioned by the Mishnah Berurah, which is our current favorite commentary on this. In his opening comment to this simon, to this paragraph, to this chapter. Rush maintains one should wash upon awakening to clean the hands from the dirty parts of the body that they had no doubt touched while sleeping. So at least from this, you see that at least as early as Rush, which was around 1300 CE or AD, the Jewish sages were aware of the danger of germs, even though they had no name for germs. Above, I have elaborated on 2 different reasons for washing before touching one's orifices, one spiritual and one physical. It should be noted that Mishnah Berurah cites a 3rd reason for washing one's hands upon awakening that would not be related to touching one's orifices. This 3rd reason is raised by Rabbi. The Mishnah Berurah is bringing down another great from the early Middle Ages of the same period as Rosh, who suggested we wash in emulation of the priests as they began their daily service. So just as the priests had to wash their hands and feet from the kior, the water station at the entrance of the temple, to inaugurate their service for the day, so too we, who are also starting our service of God for the day, albeit not the temple, should inaugurate ourselves to the task by washing our hands. So we have to look at ourselves like priests going into the temple. So the going to the temple, that was God. God speaking said, hey, you guys coming into the temple to serve me, I want you to wash. It's a formal washing, a ritual washing, hands and feet. There was a special place where they had to set up to do that. So he's saying that we're the same way, we're just not in the temple, so do it our own. Rav Karo does not allude, Rav Karo, the guy who wrote this book, does not allude to the reasons offered by Rosh and Rashba until paragraph 12 below. So he's going to talk about it, but not yet. He hasn't mentioned it. So now going on to paragraph 4, he says, even if one has washed his hands, he should not regularly touch the orifice of his anus because that could cause hemorrhoids. They were concerned with medical. One should also refrain from touching a place where he had been bled. That was a common medical procedure in those days because that could damage the wound. My comment is this paragraph seems to address physical health issues only, which suggests the Rav Karo's earlier paragraphs were about the same and not about the spiritual matters presented above that I discussed. So you could argue that he was just giving you some physical advice. The argument against this is that Rav Karo did not set out to write a medical text. So I'd be surprised to find medical advice. And there's all kinds you could have written. So we can resolve this problem by treating this as a further example of the power of small actions repeated regularly, a lesson Rav Karo had introduced with its instruction to wash 3 times, as discussed above. Rav Karo wants to point out that repeated action can be harmful too. It works both ways. So he's saying not regularly touch the orifice. Don't regularly fool around there because you can wind up harming yourself. Paragraph 5. One should not touch a container of beer because the touch of a hand spoils the beer. Now, that's a really weird statement. So my comment is this paragraph is unclear, and the blessing it provides may very well be this lack of clarity. It shows how much reverence we ascribe to the wisdom of our Talmudic sages, in that we preserve and try to follow their advice, even when we are not sure exactly what they meant, unless we have good reason not to follow their advice. So what's the history of this? The Talmud, in the tractate dealing with Shabbat, around page 108, warned against touching with the hand a number of things, including the items mentioned in paragraphs 3 and 4 above, namely the mouth, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the anus, the wound, and in this paragraph, a barrel of beer, plus other things not mentioned here. I didn't bother bringing everything down that they talk about here. The Talmud did not describe any conditions governing this warning, not to touch with the hands. And so the warning was somewhat mysterious, since we must touch these things with our hands sometimes. Accordingly, some commentaries limited the warning to various conditions depending on the item, since no one condition made sense for all the items. So they do discuss it, and they suggest, interpret it this way, interpret it that way, and so on. Usually, Rav Karo is one such commentator, and he has recorded here only some of the items that the Talmud warned about. So he's as entitled to comment as the other guys, and he's only commenting on some. Moreover, he has divided the items into 3 paragraphs because he assumes different conditions for different items. In paragraph 3, he assumed the warning applied to unwashed hands from which the foul spirit could infect through the orifices of the mouth, the eyes, etc. In paragraph 4, he assumed the warning was constantly worrying about a wound or the anus, even with washed hands. He said, because he didn't mention washed or unwashed, just don't do that all the time. Paragraph 5 warns the touch of a hand spoils the beer. Is Rav Karo talking about hands that have already been washed, as he was in the previous paragraph, or unwashed hands, as he will return to in the next paragraph? It's not clear. If an already washed hand, if he's here referring to hands that are already washed, why would the touch of a washed hand spoil the beer? And why coach us on how to make beer in a section dealing with washing rituals? If it's an unwashed hand, why only beer? If an unwashed hand can have a damaging spiritual effect on beer, would it not also damage other foodstuffs? As stated earlier, it's not clear. The resolution of all this is that we try not to touch foodstuffs before washing our hands in the morning, but we do not waste food that has been subjected to unwashed hands. That's all we can do. We just try and govern it, but not going to throw the food out if someone's violated this advice, right? But we just he wrote it. I got to come back to this in a bit. 6, it is not necessary to use a reviat, that's a measure of volume, for hand washing prior to prayer. So he goes on in the morning. Now is the blessing. A reviat is about 3 to 4 ounces. It's the minimum amount of liquid considered significant in halachic applications. This is the first time the Rabbi Karo has mentioned prayer as the reason to wash. So keep that in mind. We'll go on. In number 7, it is best to be particular regarding hand washing prior to prayer on all things which are essential for hand washing prior to eating. We'll see that there's quite a difference of much more stringent rules when you go to wash for eating bread. Ramah adds, however, neither using a pouring vessel nor human force or any other things that invalidate hand washing before eating are prerequisites for washing before prayer. So my comment is, in paragraph 2 above, I explained the different rationales that led the rabbis to instruct us to wash our hands before eating and before prayer. There was a number of things. Touching dirty parts of your body, or getting rid of spiritual impurity, and so on. Reb Karo prefers we wash the same way in either case, but implies it is not necessary. Ramah seems more lenient when washing for prayer, but does not dispute Reb Karo's preference to follow the stringencies of washing for a meal. This slight difference between these two authorities may be a further example of their different attitudes when starting the day, as examined in Simon 1, paragraph 1. There, remember where Reb Karo said, "Be like a lion, wake the day," and Ramah said, "Well, at least don't come too late to the congregational prayers." So they have a different attitude. Hand washing before morning prayer should not be performed over the ground, but rather into a vessel. Blessing. The reason given for this is to contain the foul spirit that the water removes from the fingertips. Just like the Torah status tameh is considered transferable, so too is this rabbinic form of tameh, impurity. We'll see. But remember that was one of the reasons to remove the purity, because you've been like dead when you're sleeping, and that was the impurity. So that water sort of washed it away. Now it's got the impurity sort of in it. So the next prayer: water that has been used for hand washing before morning prayers should not be used afterward for any other purpose. One should not pour it out in a house or any place where people pass by. So the sewer, the outhouse, something like that. Blessing. Paragraph 8 instructed us to gather the water to remove the foul spirit into a vessel. This is, the paragraph above. Put it into a vessel. Up here we said put it into a vessel. This paragraph now cautions us about its disposal. Whether the practitioner remembers the rationale for washing or not, this careful disposal of the used water assigns it a repulsive status that must subconsciously affect the practitioner's attitude towards sleep and its attendant inactivity. This was the message of washing in the first place. Remember that you're like dead when you sleep. You're not getting anything done. You're distant from accomplishing. You're not living life. So that's no good. Not a good state of being. I have been asked about the effect of pouring out the water from washing into a kitchen sink. Like today, we have all these drains at our disposal, can we use that? Many people, by the way, instead pour it into the toilet, which is, certainly takes it away. The kitchen sink, they're saying, like, it's might be in there, it's like lingering in the trap and so on. So does this somehow defile the sink? And I say, the sink, you can prepare food, and so on. So I want to know. My answer would be no, notwithstanding the three possible reasons for washing. It doesn't defile the sink. If to sanctify towards service, the reason you're washing is to sanctify towards service, as the Cohens did, there's no harmful quality to the water. You're not removing any impurities. You're just a new washing before you go in to do the service. If to remove the germs that might be present from touching parts of the body, then that decision should be made according to each person's standard of cleanliness. If you're the type that doesn't like to get anything even remotely germ laden, so then don't pour it in. If you're not that conscientious about it, so don't worry. And then the third thing is, if to remove the psychological dismay of contact with the dead, which was from waking up from sleep, I think diverting it to the sewer system is enough. You're letting it go down the drain, and it's not there in the sink anymore. Now, I never thought of it. I don't know if I ever thought of it when I was writing, but actually, it's still sort of there in the trap, right? The last water to go into the sink stays in the trap, and then it washes the other water down. I think that's the way the physics works. So, but it's far removed from the sink itself. It doesn't come back up unless you flood it up. So, it should be okay. Number 10. He says one should take up the vessel of water with his right hand, then transfer it to his left hand in order to pour water onto his right hand first. So you've got a vessel of water, you're filling it up with your right hand, you transfer it to left and you wash your right hand first, and then you take it back and you wash your left hand like that. That's his suggestion. So
I noticed in a shul I was in that they had these big sort of cups at the wash basins, and I was wondering what they for. This seems to explain it, but they all had at least two handles on it.
Exactly. Okay, come here. I'll show you a picture in just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, let's see if I can get this up. So here you see a vessel with two handles, and there's nothing spiritual about it. It's just handy. Is that if you're holding it like this, you want to transfer it, you have another handle that it's easily to transfer to. It's just so much easier to use like that. So they make these, and they make them in plastic too. And where people wash often, you will often find these, and they're specially designed to facilitate that idea. Because otherwise, you have to there's only one handle, you have to put it down, it's not easy to transfer, and so on. So if you haven't seen it before, there's my example. Show and tell. Now, about the right hand, my comment is this is another example of emulating God, who favored the right hand in most people, as discussed above in Simon 2 some time ago. Mishnah Brura, which is the major commentary today, I'm going to call him MB for now on, says this applies even to lefties because it invokes God's right hand, so to speak, which is kindness, over God's left hand, which is judgment. So this is the symbolism we use, that God's right hand represents kindness and left hand judgment. So you want to always invoke the kindness first. We might explain MB's symbolism as follows. We make things with our hands, and we can easily make more once we have a pattern to follow. If we want to add an extra element, it will require extra dexterity, the kind found more prominently in the right hand. But just to repeat the existing pattern, to push the raw material into a mold, the left hand will suffice. God made the universe work according to certain rules. such as the visible laws of physics and chemistry and the invisible laws of the mitzvahs. Every law has a natural result. For example, fire turns fuel into light and heat, water sustains life, and mitzvahs improve character. God's hands, as it were, continuously runs the world, but to run it by these established rules, only the left hand is necessary, so to speak, of God. However, when we plead for God's kindness, we are asking him to overrule these laws and to deliver some other result than the one that should occur naturally, i.e., following the mold. Don't follow the mold, God. So we're asking for, a special consideration. This will require the extra dexterity available from a right hand, so to speak, to make sure that it will work as well or better for all concerned. That is why kindness is considered a right-handed achievement. Does it make sense? Silence from the crowd.
I just wanted to say that with two handles, your clean hand doesn't ever touch the dirty handle. That your dirty hand first grabbed the cup.
That's right. That's right. You're able to wash and do it. But now we're talking about that you should wash the right hand first. So when we're doing that, to invoke God's kindness, and I'm explaining why that constitutes God's kindness, because the right hand, everybody's right hand, or the people that are righties, most people are righties, you have more dexterity. You're more, when you really have to do fine tuning, your right hand is more capable than your left hand. So when God does really have hands, but we're asking him to do something. So we're asking him to go not the normal way. When we're asking for kindness, we're saying, don't do what's normal, the normal way the reaction is. Give me some kindness, work with me in a special way. Well, that's going to require the fine movement that you see in a right hand. And that's why it's called the kindness is God's right hand. So my final comment here is, we are told to emulate God, but here it seems we're expecting God to emulate us. We are asking for his kindness in return for our favoring our right hand. Why should that work? Probably because it assists us to appreciate the extra dexterous care needed to deliver kindness to us. We should not expect God's kindness if we cannot appreciate the effort he took to deliver it. Excuse me. So, is there any questions on that? Is that it? Well, how do you mean? Okay, well, I mean, effort is interesting to talk about God's effort. It would seem that he has no effort because he's, super powerful, can do whatever he wants. But it's really, in reality, the way I look at it, it's not really that simple either. So, but first, let's see, to recognize God's kindness is, we're constantly but especially in recognition that have we really earned our right to life? That God gave us here and gave us all kinds of abilities and opportunities, and we know we don't take advantage of all of them, and so and things happen, and you might even say, well, okay, that's kind of what I deserve. But then sometimes we're asking for, like, it's sick or somebody's sick, and we're praying especially for something. So we're asking for something special to happen. Well, in that case, be aware that it's requiring an extra level of dexterity for God. And I'll explain it like this. God's always running the world for our benefit. He's and even when we're not getting what we would like, it's for our benefit. Some things have to happen to guide us back to the proper path and so on. But we pray and say, "Now, God, take away this illness or this, I need a new job or whatever it is we're praying for. I need some kindness, a new job, a healthier outlook, or find a friend, or help me find some service, anything you pray for." So why wasn't it there when you needed it? And the answer is because it was best, actually, the way it's working out. That's God is always running the world to be best for you. You're praying to God. You're asking him, I don't care if that's the best. I want you to make it the way I want it. And God then considers overcoming his better judgment and changing things so that he can grant your request and still make it better for you. He had already organized everything so that it was in your favor. You didn't like it, but it was going to be in your favor. Now you're asking him for something special. He has to reorganize everything so it'll still work out good for you and yet answer your request. He's overcoming his own plan of action because you asked. That's really something that requires a lot of fine-tuning because he'd already planned it out to be good for you. Now, just because you asked, he's got to get a whole new plan. And, he's moving a lot of things around for that to happen. So when you start appreciating what's going on, you can really appreciate the personal care. But you first have to make yourself aware of it all. And that's what we're doing when we're exerting the right hand efforts. We're behaving like we're doing these things now. The trouble for us is that we forget what it all means, so we just go through it without thinking, and that's why it's so important to learn these texts regularly or come back to them and review them because they'll remind us that there is a kindness. God, there's a right-handed kindness. There is a extra level of care is being given, and we should be cognizant of it and appreciate it. And that appreciation will help us do better for ourselves. Okay, I'll try and do one more paragraph here. One should not take water from a person who has not yet washed his hands. MB explains that regarding someone who is not yet washed, we can take the water from him, but not allow him to pour the water over our hands. So he changes the meaning a little. MB further comments that this rule does not apply to washing hands for a meal. No one comments on why different rules should govern the two instances of washing, but our earlier analysis may light the way, the two instances being here waking up or getting ready for prayers and for a meal. Paragraph 2's commentary explained that washing 3 times after sleeping teaches us to embrace life and achieve great things through small but steady progress. We could understand that someone who has slept and not yet taken this teaching to heart is a poor example by which to deliver this message to us. Washing for a meal, though, conveys a different message, which would not be contradicted by an unwashed agent. So let me explain. Mercy, yeah, the merciful is that goes together with the kindness. Let me see if I think they go together. That's God is yeah, we're God's mercy is always there. Kindness and mercy is, I think, two sides of the same coin, I would say. They go together. Okay. So, good question. Good question. I think we'll stop there for today.
Now, Rabbi, this Wednesday I have at our usual time I have meditation class with Hashi Skobak, so I won't be back in this class until Thursday.
Okay.
Because I work Monday, Tuesday. I have meditation with Hashi on Wednesday at this time, and so
Okay.
yeah, hopefully that's okay with you. And I want to thank everybody in the Zoom meeting, Rabbi and Grace and Ronald down in Australia. Always glad to have you here. And I try to open the room early so we can have some time to chat.
Right.
Yeah, it's always a joy. And thank you, Rabbi Schwartz, for sharing interesting material. And I think that whole point for me really on considering the prayer and asking for some extra degree of dexterity. I mean, often people don't realize when they're asking for a miracle or something outside the laws of nature, what they're really asking for. Could you just stop the law of gravity? No, I mean that would affect everybody negatively. And so people need to realize that when they're asking for something outside the normal laws of gravity or normal laws of physics, yeah, I think it's got merit there if you're recognizing yeah.
There's a lot going on when you do that, and there's I have a whole. I think we spoke about the different names of God and how that invokes that idea.
I wanted to bring up a subject.
Yes, sir.
Now, the washing of hands, a long time ago, the doctors didn't wash their hands, and their deliveries of their babies were dying, and the mothers were dying.
Oh, staph infections through the roof, yeah.
Yeah, and then they washed their hands, and it cut it way down, the deaths way down. And I bet the Jewish people didn't experience that.
I don't have records of it, but I know that they but from the discussion of this, you see that they were very concerned about.
Oh, they're very strict now in the scrubbing, the way they scrub. Yeah.
Right. So I can't say that they were that strict, but they were always washing hands, and cleanliness was.
Oh yeah, if you've ever read any of the Rambam's material, he was a physician and was very, very intricate when it came to a lot of different physical details for sure.
So that may be why they mentioned some medical issues there, because it was a part and parcel of the routine to be holy. You got to be alive. So,
yeah, the old adage, cleanliness is next to godliness.
right, exactly. Very good. Yes.
Anybody else in the room have any last comments before we wind it down?
No, I'm right.
All right, Ronald. We wish you well, and stay in touch. I'm glad to hear everything's worked out the way it ought, and yeah, joy and Grace. Thanks for coming again, and so I think we're going to wind this down for today, and we will be back Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for this class. I do have at this time. On Wednesday, I have a meditation class with Hashi Skobak, which we only do once a month. And it's always a good time for me because it allows me to focus on basic stuff like breathing and just, thank Hashem for every little thing and try to learn attention, better. And for sure, it's all good. So until we see you on Thursday for this class, have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.